Hello, this is Iron Lich W, and this week I decided to play Asphyxious the Hellbringer based off the decision to use Kraken. I feel Asphyxious the Hellbringer can really cover some of the Kraken's weaknesses, which is his slow movement of 5 as well as his low mat of 6. I further rounded out the list with Satyxis Raiders as another cornerstone to really take advantage of Ashen Veil.
The idea behind this list was to put the Mammoth on the table. Thought that Makeda would be a good caster for this, and the rest of the list is basically meant to help with scenarios and to help the Mammoth be a better ranged beast.
For Cryx deployment, I first pre-deploy Kraken, that way he has distance to both zones. Once my opponent goes, I deploy the Soul Hunters on the left flank, that way they will be able to contest and possibly capture the left zone. Followed by Darragh Wrathe and Necrotechs surrounding the Kraken and Scrap Thralls at the ends. I then set up Asphyxious and Vociferon right next to Kraken, that way Asphyxious also has distance to both zones. And then I set up the Withershadow Combine, that way they'll be able to puppet strings either Asphyxious or the Kraken.
My deployment was pretty simple. The Mammoth was going to be on one side to hold the zone. The Nihilators were going to go on the other side, hopefully to allow me to be able to contest the zone away from the rest of his jacks. Looked like most of his deployment was going to be infantry on the one side and some heavy hitters plus his soul hunters on the same side as the Mammoth. So that's why I ended up putting the Cetrati on that side, thinking that in between Shield Wall and Defender's Ward that they'd be able to take a few hits before dying. Hopefully, stand long enough to allow me to hold the zone for tournament play. Then the rest of the support pretty much just kind of fills in back, and then the Mammoth, the Feralgeist, goes out on the end, hoping that it would be able to contest the zone.
For advanced deployment, I deploy Cankerworm on the far left flank, that way I could try and get him in threat distance of the Mammoth for his armor-piercing attack. And then I deploy the Satyxis Raiders on the right flank to capture the right zone and take out as many of the Nihilators as possible. Cryx turn 1. I start off my turn by allocating a point of focus to the Kraken. My intent is to get Kraken near the middle linear objective, that way he can put a threat range on both zones. I start off and run Kraken behind the first linear obstacle. I then activate the Raiders and have them move up to the right zone, but spread out a little so that my opponent won't be able to get a whole bunch of them with any one attack. I know they are immune to blast damage, but I have lost my Raider UA many times before, so in case he somehow had a way of taking them out, I didn't want them to be susceptible to blast damage. I follow up by activating Asphyxious. He advances and casts Ashen Veil onto the Raiders. Then I activate Vociferon and have him run up. I figure since Annihilator is going to be on that side, I might be able to collect a few souls with them. And then Cankerworm advances, and then because he has affinity for Asphyxious, where he ends his activation within Asphyxious command range, he gets to make a secondary advance. So I have him initially toe the zone. The Scrap Thrall then runs, and then I activate the Soul Hunters and have them run up, not into the zone, but spread out so they can put their pretty good threat range over most of the zone. I then activate Darragh Wrathe and have him move up and do Beyond Death just in case my opponent has some way of accelerating any of his models into my lines. Then I have both Necrotechs run. I want to try and keep them close to the Kraken, or where I want the Kraken to be in a couple turns. Then the Scrapdoll runs, as does a Withershadow Combine.
My turn was pretty simple. Just wanted to move everything forward, try to do some decent moves to hold them back, hold the Cryx back. My initial thought was to move the Nihilators up, form a screen that would keep them from getting between the reach, so that way I could hopefully get to them on the next turn. Then I activated the Raider. I ended up putting 2 for Far Strike on the Mammoth, figuring that I might be able to shoot something if he gets far enough up the table. But not realizing he only had a 10-inch range. With Far Strike, it gives him 14. Still a decent range, but I doubt I'll be close enough to do much to him. Earlier on, you saw the Feralgeist run basically up behind the building to get out of the way. Now the Cetrati are activating, they are running, and after moving pretty much the entire unit, I asked him what the power of his weapons were on his Soul Hunters, realizing that they would probably hurt me fairly badly with their 3 attacks. I decided to move behind the wall. Then I activated the Mammoth. He ran forward. The Extoller activated. Moved forward, gave him Eyeless Sight. Then the Willbreaker activated, giving an ancillary attack. I was trying to do some initial damage on the Worm, but unfortunately missed, so it deviated off of him far enough to do splash damage on 2 other models. I was able to kill the little guy, but not quite do anything to the Soul Hunter, unfortunately. Now I'm moving Makeda up. I'm going to do, first one I'm going to do 2 to put Defender's Ward on the Cetrati to give them a little extra armor. Then I'm going to end up dropping some more to put Savagery up on the Mammoth, and then I'll sit on 2. Then the Krea walks up and does her little ability of Paralytic Aura, which increases my defense and armor against ranged attacks. Then, of course, the Beast Handlers just advance.
For Cryx turn 2, I have the Withershadow Combine upkeep Ashen Veil on the Raiders, and then I allocate 3 focus out to the Kraken. I first start my turn by activating the Withershadow Combine and advancing them, putting puppet strings on the Kraken, and casting Darkfire at the Nihilators where I'm able to. Unfortunately, my opponent passed his tough check, so I didn't get a free soul, but I'm fine with that. Checking my control range, trying to gauge the threat range, see which of the Kraken's weapons are being ranged. My plan is just to shoot the Kraken. I want to catch as many shots at the flare. So when the Kraken does activate, he does get 4 shots at the flare, and he takes the aiming bonus and just starts shooting at the front row of Nihilators. I figure if I could take out at least the front 2 near the objective, that'll open up charge lanes for the Raiders to get to the back row of the Nihilators. My opponent fortunately passed at least one of his tough checks, and I ended up having to take all my shots into the front 3 Nihilators I was trying to get to the most. But even when they're knocked down, that gives me a sufficient space to get by them without taking a free strike. The whole time I'm shooting Nihilators, I'm trying to figure out exactly where the Mammoth is going to go, because I know my opponent's not going to give it to me. And then while I continue to figure things out, I go ahead and activate Vociferon and try and run him a little closer. I think I just misplaced him from the very beginning as he's get all clustered in with the Raiders. So I activate the Raiders, and they take the order to run and charge, just to get things spread out and try and go for at least controlling that right zone on scenario. But then I realized that that one Annihilator that was knocked down was creating a huge gap, and I couldn't get to the back row, at least near him. So I ended up just doubling up on the few Annihilators that the Raiders are able to get to. And I just move up the Sea Witch, trying to keep her out of harm's way, but still maintain a pretty wide command range. Then, of course, my opponent passes one tough check on the back Annihilator. On the hill, they passed tough check, and that wasn't huge, but it was the one that was in the zone that was just killing me. But only one of them was in range for Vociferon to collect the soul off of. So then I activate Scrapthaw and run him up. I figure next turn he should have a clear shot at the objective. Then I activate Cankerworm, have him move up, try and play with my opponent a little bit, think he's going to end his turn right there, but then using the advanced move from being in Satyxis control range. I know I said command earlier, but I meant control. Use that free move to get behind a linear obstacle. Cankerworm, having both parry and Pathfinder, is in a great position to where if my opponent does move up his Mammoth, he's going to take at least one armor-piercing shot from Cankerworm if he doesn't kill Cankerworm. So then I activate my Soul Hunters, and seeing how my opponent kind of clustered his guys beyond a linear obstacle, I just decided to run one Soul Hunter up there and engage him and try and keep them trapped there in an effort to try and prepare to control the zone. Then I have a Necrotech run up, because I know Kraken, the plan is to move him this turn, or on my very next turn. I want to get the Necrotech out of the way so I don't cluster Kraken in. Then Darragh Wrathe activates and moves, and he does Beyond Death standard, because I know my opponent's going to be in my lines this turn. And then I finished the turn by activating Gatsby and having him move up. And that is the end of Cryx turn 2.
Alright, start out by reading my Fury back, dropping off all the anima and everything else that's on the table. Unfortunately, my plan to screen the Raiders didn't work as well as I was hoping. But I do decide to keep up both spells of Savagery and Defender's Ward. Now to determine what I need to do for the rest of my turn. With Ashen Veil up on the Raiders, it really makes them a really nice defense, which kind of makes it tough to reach. So I'm measuring out my range so I can figure out where I can move to, hopefully be a little bit more protected. And I end up taking up a lot of time right here. Then I finally decide to go ahead and activate the Cetrati. They just kind of shimmy up for the most part. And then I'm checking to see if the one is within reach range of the Soul Hunter, but he's not. So I decide to go ahead and take the other ones to swing on the one Soul Hunter, which only takes me one to kill him. I didn't realize he was the damaged one from the splash damage from the earlier attack. Now it's a matter of trying to figure out, how far forward do I advance the Mammoth, without getting him in threat range of the Kraken. Right now it's kind of a stalemate, who moves first, and it's, with my slow speed of 4, plus Savagery, of course, it makes it a little tough to remove that. I ended up going with the Extoller first to give Eyeless Sight, thinking that it would help me with cover against the Cankerworm, but it doesn't. So I decided to shoot the Soul Hunters. Of course, I can't quite shoot the objective yet. So I ended up popping more shots into other things, more Soul Hunters. I'm able to kill off the front line of the Soul Hunters, but nothing that's really close enough to keep them from coming at me at a later turn. And of course the final shot deviates just far enough back to where I don't really do anything. Then I activate the Willbreaker. He gives me an ancillary attack. A lot of thinking this turn because I know that if I do the wrong thing at the wrong time, it's going to cost me. And I'm hoping not to lose too early in the match. So I got to make sure I don't overdo it. So now I'm activating Makeda. I'm doing 3 for Carnage. And then I'm also going to pop her feet, which her feat allows any friendly faction models that end up dying on this turn in her control range will be returned to the table during my next maintenance phase. So now it's just a matter of trying to get all those guys back in. I'm able to charge across the back arc of the one Satyxis, and this one's going to, now I'm going to charge into the rest of the line, hoping to try to get deeper into his line and have some decent swings to allow, between Carnage being up. I'm hoping I can do some damage and swing on, and kill some of the Raiders, the Satyxis Raiders. My knockdown models are just going to stand up and forfeit their movement so they can actually swing. So I start with the one who gets the bonus. Next one he misses. Then I go to do the next guy. And then the next guy. And I get lucky and not have him in the berserk range. And end up to where I get a roll. But unfortunately it's not enough. Still in Carnage range. And final swing, which I forgot I already swung. So it wasn't too good. I was able to kill a couple, but not as many as I was hoping. I was hoping to kill off at least enough for a morale check. Now I'm going to activate the Raider. He's going to do 2 for Far Strike. He is then going to attempt to shoot the one Scrap Thrall, because if he ends up blowing up in my lines, that'll hurt a lot. I'm able to kill him, but he's not close enough to hit anybody else with his Blast AoE. Then I activate the Willbreaker. He gives an ancillary attack, which misses. Now, because where the Cankerworm is, I have to move the Krea up to hopefully block any kind of a charge lane to my caster. She then also puts up 2 for her Animi of Paralytic Aura. I then advance the Beast Handlers to help condition for Fury.
Cryx turn 3. The Withershadow Combine upkeeps Ashen Veil. Asphyxious allocates 3 focus out to Kraken, and then an additional focus out to Cankerworm. I measure my control range. I know Kraken now has the threat range necessary to get to the Mammoth on this turn. I double count my focus, double count the ranges. I know I have them in range. I know I'm going to soften them up with a couple other attacks before Kraken goes in for the kill. So I start my activations with the Withershadow Combine, who put puppet strings on the Kraken, target the Nihilators with Darkfire, try and get free soul again. But it does not work. I miss my attack roll against the particular Nihilator I was aiming for. Oh, excuse me, I actually do hit, and my opponent just passes tough check. It's like the third or fourth of the game. This guy's magic on his tough checks. I proceed to activate Asphyxious after the Withershadow Combine finish, and I cast Sighting Touch on a Kraken. I pop my feet, I advance Asphyxious up, and proceed to forget to use the rest of his focus in order to cast Mobility, which is key to getting to the Mammoth. So, 2 focus, sitting there, staring at me, laughing at me. Hopefully I don't lose my Kraken. I fully expect to use Kraken at this point, because the Mammoth is going to throw out pile 21 hits on him. So I start by moving on to Cankerworm, who charges the Mammoth, does an armor-piercing attack, and actually does a pretty good amount of damage to the Mammoth. After this attack, he's still on Asphyxious' control range and proceeds to move out of the way of charge lanes to the Mammoth, but then tries to jam in the Krea. So after the Cankerworm is done, I activate the Soul Hunters. I just want Soul Hunters to soften up the Mammoth, make sure that Kraken will kill him. But then only 2 of them were able to really get there. I know we just had a rules question regarding whether the Soul Hunters keep their incorporeal status once they leave Darragh Wrathe's command range. In this particular situation, until we can get more clarification, we just treat it as they lose it once he leaves the command range, just based off the wording of the card. So I was only able to get two soul hunters in there. They did more damage than I expected to the Mammoth, and I'll take it. I won't complain. I was able to knock out, I believe, his body, and then the rest of the attacks on the other nearby Cetrati missed. As well as the additional attacks on the Mammoth not really doing any damage. So I'll take like half moves to try and get them out of the way. As right now at this point I'm looking for what else can I attack Mammoth with. So move up the Necrotech, so he's going to be within 5 inches of where I want the Kraken to be on this turn. And then I activate Kraken. It felt like an eternity if I kept doing different calculations on how to get there, because at this point I realized that I forgot to cast Mobility. So charging Kraken would only have a 12-inch threat range. They speed 5, plus 3 for charging, plus 4. Only gives you 12 inches, and I needed every bit of the 14-inch threat to get Mammoth within range. So it was a hard pill to swallow. I eventually just decided that I was going to have to attack the objective charge and attack the objective, since I already started measuring. It felt really bad because at this point I was basically sure to myself that I would not have Kraken on my next turn. It seems like every time there's a stiff breeze, the Kraken dies. So I try not to advance him ever as far as I can. Figure I want to make the Mammoth move. Make him move further than just a half inch to attack me. So I kill the objective. I have several focus just sitting there that have gone to waste now. So in an effort to try and save Kraken by some miracle, I activate Darragh Wrathe, move him up and do Beyond Death. Since the Mammoth is a living model, it will be -2 to his attack damage rolls against the Kraken while he's within 9 inches of Darragh Wrathe. I then activate the second Necrotech, have him run up there, just in case. If he lives, I might be able to repair him. Then the Raiders... I'm seeing I could possibly get one Raider in there. So the Raiders take the Orb to charge or run, as well as a mini feat. I want to see if I can do any more damage to the Mammoth. The first Raider that was going to charge ends up getting hit by a free strike from the Annihilator. But the second one is able to charge outside of the Annihilator's 2-inch reach. So I'm able to get one Raider there, and then I kind of just redirect the other ones to charge whoever's next to them. I have to run over the Sea Witch in order to maintain the command range to the important Raider, the one that was attacking the Mammoth. And then just do a bunch of charges. A lot of them didn't even get 3 inches. I ended up having one Raider be outside command range by the time I got done with all the charges. And in a lot of the instances where the Raiders were going one-on-one with Annihilators and they couldn't do CMAs, they missed, but when they did hit, I was able to knock out a couple of them. And the one Raider that hit the Mammoth, she did do a pretty good amount of damage on him, but she didn't knock out any additional aspects. And then since Vociferon was in range of 2 of the Annihilators, I got 2 more souls for my next turn.
Okay, start my turn out by reading my Fury again, because I need to make sure I get the maximum amount I can. Have to check on how my feat works on when those models come back. I of course remove any and all the extra tokens on the field. I then go ahead and start moving the models to where they're in formation and in my command range. Almost forgot that I could actually daisy chain them back to where they can get further back in the lines. So I'm hoping I don't mess up too much with my placement for them. I don't upkeep Savagery, and I don't upkeep Defender's Ward this turn. Because with everything being in the mix like it is, it almost doesn't matter. The Willbreaker activates first, does an Extoller attack to swing on the Soul Hunter, ends up killing off the Soul Hunter because I need to free up the Mammoth so I can attempt to take out his Kraken now that he's close enough. Unfortunately, my Spirit is out, so I need to make sure that I heal that first. But now I activate the Cetrati. They receive the order to charge. Well, those that can charge anyways end up charging. I have one that charges Darragh Wrathe on the backside. I have one that's right now getting a free strike from the Soul Hunter to charge the whatever the repair thrall that Cryx has, and then the others either run or charge in place from swing on Darragh Wrathe, and I don't quite do enough to kill him, but I do end up killing off the other guy, which was nice. And I'm able to take out the other Soul Hunter that was also blocking in the Mammoth. Fortunately, with his feet up, every time I do something with a point of fury or force, he ends up getting a soul for that. So it's going to be a rough go for me because there's going to be a lot of forcing in this turn. So after I activate Makeda, she heals the Mammoth, she does Carnivore, and now the Krea advances, swings on the Satyxis Raider that was blocking in the Mammoth, and then ends up killing her. Fortunately, Makeda didn't do too much because I was a little too afraid of getting too far out there or moving too far back, because Cankerworm having parry really is a scary thing, so I need to make sure that it gets blocked in during his turn. So I end up buying an attack on the Cankerworm, boosting it to hit, and do a couple points of damage, but nothing substantial, which is unfortunate. I would have really liked to have put some serious damage on the Cankerworm. The one Annihilator is still out of range, but thank goodness they're fearless. And then the last Annihilator, he ends up moving over to be able to swing on Cankerworm, but with everything else, not able to do too much damage. Now it's back over to the other side, where I need, I believe, 7s to hit, because the Ashen Veil. Not quite enough for a command check, but everybody seems to have swung. Now the Raider hops over the wall with his punching spike. Don't ask me why I decided to use his punching spike. Should have just shot something. But I wasn't able to do any more damage. Well, some more damage, but it took me 2 swings to do it. Then activated the Beast Handlers, moved them forward. I conditioned the Fury off of the 2 Light War Beasts and enraged the Mammoth, because I need him to charge the Kraken. I'm going to activate the Kraken, but of course, because of the big tusks, it makes it really tough to place him. And then of course the tentacles on the Kraken make it tough on that side. So even though they're not facing directly towards each other, he charged them. And now it's a matter of rolling and seeing what kind of damage I can do to the Kraken. About now is when I'm getting a little frustrated, because these dice rolls are well below average. Really kind of sad. Really kind of sad. But that's the reason we play the game, because it is a dice game. You gotta go with the average of the dice. Sometimes they're with you, sometimes they're against you. Just so happens that this time they were mostly against me. But I was able to take out the right side and do some damage on the left side. So it wasn't all bad. Then the Then the Extoller moved forward. I thought I had a shot, but I didn't. The Willbreaker finally moves forward. Gives me an ancillary attack, but I only do another couple points of damage. And that's my go.
Cryx turn 4. I thought turn 3 was bad for me, but this turn was even worse. It can be summed up by hashtag palm the forehead. The Withershadow Combine upkeep Ashen Veil, Asphyxious upkeeps Scything Touch on the Kraken, and I allocate 3 focus out to the Kraken. Necrotech activates and moves over to attempt a repair check on the Kraken. He passes and ends up repairing the Kraken for 4 points. The 4 points gives Kraken his right arm back, so Kraken now has 2 fully functional melee weapons. I think I just got so fixated on killing the Mammoth that I threw all sense of reasonability aside and just went after the Mammoth like there's no tomorrow, despite the fact that Satyxis was in range of my enemy. So continuing with the Kraken, Kraken activates as soon as the Necrotech's done, and he just starts swinging on the Mammoth. With the POW 20 from Scything Touch, he's doing straight dice on the Mammoth. And he manages to put the Mammoth down. Because he killed an enemy living model, he gets a kill shot. So he takes a Hellblaster at the Willbreaker. The decision was either for the Extoller or the Willbreaker, but I thought the Willbreaker was the greater threat. And so he hits the Willbreaker with Hellblaster, and being 4-inch AoE, he catches a Paingiver in the blast. So he kills both the Willbreaker and the Paingiver, giving the Extoller 2 souls with which to boost her damages next turn to begin with. I think I selected the wrong target of the 2. So then Darragh Wrathe activates and does Death Ride, which allows undead models within his command range of 9 to move 1 inch. So I move up Asphyxious to 1 inch that I was planning to, and then proceeded to activate the Withershadow Combine. Excuse me, the Cankerworm. Cankerworm adjusted slightly over, attacked the Cyclops Raider twice, and missed both attacks, needing 6s but rolling 4s. So then after Cankerworm finished, he took his advanced move, or his affinity move, and just got out of the charge zone. So after I do some eyeballing of the positioning of the Nihilators, I decided to activate the Withershadow Combine. I was going to try and use the Withershadow Combine to clear out some of the Nihilators in the zone and try and decrease the amount of work that Asphyxious would need to do once he activated. I used Darkfire on all 3 of them, and I managed to take out 1 Nihilator, and then the other 2 members of the Withershadow Combine missed their attacks. So then I had to activate the Raiders and hope that I can get enough of the Nihilators cleared out that I'd be able to control the zone. At this point, I was trying not to go with the Warlock Assassination, just because that's normally what I do. I wanted to try and win with a scenario victory. And so I was really trying to work it. But the Raiders, they just weren't hitting the Nihilators. So I got down to 3 Nihilators being in the zone. And then I had to activate Satyxis. He charged the back Nihilator just to make sure that I get him out of the way. And then he's also going to have to kill 2 Nihilators and the objective. So he hits the Nihilator he charged, makes a tough check, has a buy attack on him, makes another tough check, and then buy a third attack or buy a second attack on him, and that kills him. And then I'm looking at trying to do the numbers in my head of, can I kill the objective with sufficient swings and still, because I really want to keep some focus so I can have some armor. So because he killed Living Model, he casts Ashen Veil on himself, then proceeds to buy damage on the objective. So it takes me 3 swings, or 3 focus, to get rid of the objective. And then I have about 6 focus left, and I buy an attack on the remaining Annihilator that was in my command range. My opponent passes 3 tough checks, 4 tough checks. And it's just absurd, because at this moment I'm like, well, I'm not going to be able to claim this objective, or claim the zone. Because then I activate Vociferon and have Vociferon charge the remaining Annihilator, because then I still control the objective, but Vociferon misses his melee attack. So I fail to kill the one guy that was remaining in the zone, and then I just leave myself open, because I wanted to win through another method other than Caster Assassination, and my feat from the previous turn had given me 15 focus. Live and learn. That's the end of Cryx turn 4.
Okay, after some lucky dice rolls with those tough checks, I was able to contest the zone to stop him from gaining 4 control points in a single turn. Well, at the end of the last turn anyways. So now it's an all or nothing a turn. I have to either cast or kill, or I lose to scenario. I move the Extoller forward to do a shot on his caster. I then use one of the souls from the 2 models he ended up shooting to death earlier to boost it to hit. I end up hitting him. I then use the other one to boost the damage, hoping to get past the armor. I am able to do a few points of damage, not quite a lot, but that was actually a really good roll. I've kind of committed to going for the caster kill because it's the one that makes the most sense. So I activate the Annihilators next so I can hopefully soften some stuff up, take revenge out on the Satyxis Raiders that finally don't have Ashen Veil on them. The Raider then activates because I failed to kill anything with Annihilators. Then activate the Raider. He slides over to toe in the zone, boost a shot on his caster, and don't quite hit him. Then I check my range because I really need to see if I'd be within range to advance and swing on his caster. So I check a shorter distance in my control area, and here's what I end up doing. I activate the Beast Handlers. They move forward. They enrage the Krea because I'm hoping that if this doesn't go well, she'll be able to charge and kill off his caster. But I activate my caster first. I do 2 for Carnage, 3 for Carnage. She advances. She boosts it to hit on a combo strike, needing higher dice. I end up hitting. I boost the damage, and with everything else, that allows me to kill off his caster.